All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of the Addictively Speaking podcast. Tonight, my guest is Howman. She is a sobriety coach, a nurse practitioner, an Army veteran. Amongst other things, she is a mom, and she's in recovery, and she's here to tell her story. So, Lauren, welcome.
Hey, thank you. What a great intro. Thanks for all of that. You said it like it was just like, hello, Delilah. You probably don't know Delilah from where you are in England, do you?
What? I'm American, so I know.
Oh, you know Delilah? Okay. That's how you had like your evening voice going. So that was very cool.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what got you here on the podcast.
Yeah. How do you get to Addictively Speaking as a podcast? Well, usually there's an addiction story, right? So
that is the key.
Yep. So I'm 44. I am 3.5 years sober from alcohol, which was my main issue. And as James and I talked a little bit beforehand, we also share in common a couple of other, I call them addictive propensities. Like, if you do too much of this, you're going to have a problem with it, just from my experience with alcohol. So that'll be fun to chat about. But so, yeah, I was a normal college chick, going out drinking on the weekends, really binge drinking, spending most of Saturday on the couch, most of Sunday on the couch. Pretty, routine for that time of your life. But, as people started to kind of settle down and start moving into careers, I just kept doing all of that. And I also started bringing it into my life a little bit more often because I wasn't going out as much. So then I was just bringing it into the home. And then it became a thing where we just always had wine at home. And my husband always had a couple of beers. So now we've moved from like the weekend, Friday and Saturday, to now it includes Thursday and Wednesday. And just suddenly over time, I realized that, hey, I'm drinking every day. And it wasn't going unnoticed by my husband. So there were remarks. It just became this slow thing of recognizing that, hey, maybe I'm not in control of this anymore. And it took me quite a while. So if you're anybody out there that's like, hey, do I have a problem? We admit it to ourselves first. And then I feel like it took me forever to get to the stage where I wanted to say it out loud and be like, okay, we got it. When you say it out loud, then you actually have to do something about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the same for me. Like I felt like I thought I had a problem for a long, long time. And then, I'd think like, do I have a problem? But I'm surrounded by people that are doing exactly the same thing. Yes. Right. So if I say it in front of them, they're just like, nah, man, you just like to have a little fun. And I'm like, yeah, but like sometimes I end up in jail cells or bleeding all over the place or in a fight. And they're like, yeah, but I mean, that's part of the thing, isn't it? I was like, is it really? Like, you guys don't end up that way, but I do. So I feel like my experience is different, but I would just kind of be like, okay, you know what? Maybe they're right.
Right.
It's just a little fun.
Well, and you didn't want to give it up yet, right? So that's the other thing is you're not ready to say it out loud. You're not ready to give it a go and try and maybe fail again at sobriety or, recovery. But yeah, so all of a sudden I'm realizing that especially after my second child, so now we've moved all the way until I'm about 38 and I'm done nursing the baby. And so now I'm moving back into drinking. And, as far as motherhood went, I became a mom a little bit later. So I think I gave birth at 35 and 37. But I didn't drink during the pregnancies. I didn't drink during nursing. And that's not to say like, ooh, how great am I? It's just to kind of feed into how the heck does this happen where you can say no to it for the duration of those types of things. But when I went back, it went way heavier than it was before. And, slowly, incrementally, it was like I was going really light at first. And then it was like the norm of what I'd been doing before the pregnancy. And then it was like, whoa. So at this point, I'm like bringing 1 bottle of wine per day to the house because if I bring any more, I'm going to open whatever is there unless I'm passed out, right? Like, so if I'm opening a bottle, it's going to be gone. And I'm going to be looking through the rest of the house, looking for other things to drink if that's gone. But the 1 bottle of wine is interesting because that's kind of the limit that was like set for me by my husband. Like he was willing to deal with me, but only to a certain extent. And so my behavior after that point would get increasingly annoying, increasingly just drunk. But the 1 bottle was like the rule for me because if I accidentally joined a wine club one time. I say accidentally, I thought I could handle it. Let's put it that way. I joined a wine club. They dropped off 12 bottles in a box at my house.
That's a
And it
Christmas
was
day for
gone.
alcoholic. That's like, yeah, that's like, wee.
It was gone quick. Like, I mean, it was probably gone within 4 or 5 days. And that may or may not sound like a lot, which is why we don't compare ourselves to other drinkers. Like, I was tore up. Just trust me when I say that I spent days just inebriated and then hungover and then doing it again. Because if it was there, I was going to try to get it in my system until I was blacked out or tucked into bed because I fell asleep somewhere. Right. So that's kind of my story. And with me, I didn't want to do the AA thing, and I have nothing against AA, but for me in a small town where I live, working at that time as a full-time nurse practitioner, there was no way that I could go and be anonymous and not be sitting with my patients. There was like one meeting in our whole city, and there wasn't even one in my hometown. So it was like I was going to be sitting with my patients, many who I had sent there, right? But then it's going to impact, this is how I saw it. I don't know if I would feel that way now, but I thought if they saw me in that setting and then they're coming to see me as a healthcare professional, then I'm not going to be as credible because now they know my deep, dark secret, right? And that may just be a bunch of bullshit too. I'm not even sure. I've never gone way deep on that one. But I didn't want anybody to know. So I started looking for a way to do it on my own. And I came across somebody on the internet, on YouTube, Craig Beck, who talks a lot about, he's the quit drinking expert. And I liked his message, which was, you know, you can leave it behind because you don't want it anymore. You see no benefit to it. Instead of leaving it behind, but it's still your best friend, you still want it. Now you're just fighting every day. Can I just make it through the next 24 hours sober? Can I do this for another day? So his philosophy is, if we can just show you all the ways that alcohol lies to you and you truly don't want it anymore, not that you're cured, but like we don't have a problem anymore. So I don't need to walk around worried about it because honestly, you couldn't make me drink unless you waterboarded me or something with alcohol. So that being said, I'm trying to wrap it up because I'm a big talker.
That's all right.
I got sober 3.5 years ago. I quit in the middle of summer, was able to host a barbecue a week later, and it was fine. Like nobody died because I wasn't drinking. Nobody even cared. Nobody even noticed. And I started coaching about a year after that because I started to realize that there aren't that many options out there that people are aware of. To give you that personal one-on-one from somebody who gets it, somebody who's been there, somebody who's hidden alcohol drinks in their bedroom so that they could get more than that one wine bottle. To have that drinker's mind. I know that when I'm talking to you, James, about alcohol, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Even if like you're male and I'm female, we did all the same stupid stuff. Even if I didn't get in fist fights, I did stupid stuff that harm relationships. So it affects us all in similar ways, and we all do really goofy things with it. But so I started coaching to give people an alternative to be able to kind of keep the power in their corner instead of giving it away and saying, this is hopeless, I'm broken. I don't believe that. I don't believe that about myself. I don't believe it about you or anyone out there struggling with any form of addiction. You're addicted to something that was meant to be addictive. And with alcohol, the society at large places the fault on the individual rather on the drug that causes addiction. Because if we placed it on the drug that's causing the addiction, we'd have to take it off the market because it shouldn't be here anyway. It's freaking poison, right? So we can admit that. And even as a nurse practitioner working in that field, a lot of times the answers we give our patients are skewed because we're drinkers. So if you come into me and you're like, gosh, I'm drinking 7 bottles of wine a week, is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty average because that's what I'm doing, right? So cognitive dissonance gets in the way of a lot of stuff. But so anyway, that's my story. I'm here to just help people do it in a different way where you're not white knuckling it through every day and just only physically sober, but you're dying on the inside to get that wine back or that drink back. You actually don't want it. And that's just a whole different mindset.
Yeah, I imagine it takes some time to get to that mindset. Without I don't know. I've never been like a big AA person. I know, but I mean, a lot of people swear by it.
Yes.
It's like the big thing, isn't it? But yeah, I went to one meeting in my hometown, and it was I honestly, I think I literally went out and got drunk right after. I was like,
do you know how many people say that?
fuck this. It's just a bunch of people talking about how shit their fucking lives are. And
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, I used to drink, and they were telling you how like fucked up. Like it was like to me, it sounded like a competition of like who got more fucked up and did more
Oh,
fucked up
yeah.
shit. Like
Mhm.
whose rock bottom was more rock bottom. And I
Right.
sat there and it was depressing. And I just sat in this church and I thought, oh shit, this is not for me.
Right.
And, you know, I probably wasn't at a point in my life where it would have been for me. But every time I thought about getting sober, I thought, well, I'm not going to do that because that is just not me. I can't do that. I have to just make my mind up and stop.
Yes.
And then once I've done that, once I've admitted it to myself and I own it, I say it, I own it, I tell all my friends and I say, I'm done. Then that's it. And that was the only way I could go forward. And then I did. But yeah, like going through the AA thing, I just couldn't.
I have a question for you about that. Do you feel like it was like a pissing match? So then you walked away feeling like you didn't have a problem? Because I've heard a lot that people are in there talking about like, you know, comorbidities with heroin or meth. And you're like, well, I'm good then, right? Or was it just so freaking depressing that you left and were like, oh my God, my life is just terrible. Let me go drink.
Like, I think too, because like I was in a place where like I didn't want to do this. I was not in a mental state. I wasn't saying like I had a problem. My mom was begging me to do it. So I went to appease her. And I also, when I was there, it just seemed like a bunch of guys telling war stories about who was drunker, who did more this, who did more that. I did this, I drove drunk there. And I was just like, so like you share all that stuff, but then like all I could think about was like, oh, I'm just gonna go out and get drunk. Like, this is ridiculous. You know? I just heard people talk about drinking for 45 minutes. Do you know what I want to go do?
Go drink.
Drink.
Yeah.
I want to go drink.
Yeah.
Because
I've heard that
now I'm thinking like I could get way more fucked up than that guy did. I'll do that tonight. I'll show him. You think you got a story?
Yeah.
Here we go. You know?
Yeah.
So I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. And I wasn't in a place to do it at that time. I was still in my hometown, and you know, and it was a tiny town, you know, kind of like what you were saying, like, you know, it's just a tiny little town in, you know, Pennsylvania that, you know, it was a coal mining town. Everybody drank.
Yeah.
And they drank regularly and consistently and aggressively. Like that's what we did. You know, we were known for it. So then like when you grow up around that, like just life, isn't it? Like, that's what everybody does. They go down to the Hosey, the fire hall, and they're all, you know, having a couple drinks, and you know, it's normal. It's normal. So you don't see anything wrong with it. I didn't really see a problem with it until I left. When I left my hometown and I was somewhere else.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got social media, you've got, you know, growing up, you always saw people popping champagne during celebrations or toasting at weddings. Every time you saw other people, my parents didn't really drink, so I didn't witness this at home, but I saw it out and about when we'd go out to dinner and stuff. People just having a good time. And it looked like the reason for the good time was the alcohol, which is another lie, right?
Well, I mean, it does bring, so when people do start drinking, right, it starts to loosen them up, like their inhibitions get lowered, right? So the people who are usually in their shell and, you know, closed off will be like, hey, look at me, I can dance now. And they couldn't dance before, but now they can dance. Now they're a dancing fucking machine.
Right.
You know, it does bring that.
Drinks and they're puking on the dance floor, right?
Yeah.
It always goes in that direction. It's like, damn it, it was good until it wasn't, right?
Yeah, well, that's what it is. I mean, everybody kind of gets to that point, like, you know, where they're like, this is so great. And then there's like somebody holding the girl's hair back in the toilet. And she's like,
yeah,
I don't know what I did. And you're like, okay.
But, you know, you said something earlier that I want to go back to real quick, because it's interesting that we will take on those risks as part of the deal. So if I ever ate a piece of bread or drank a glass of orange juice and it produced that kind of room spinning, vomiting, 3-day hangover, I would never drink that juice again or eat that bread or
No.
whatever it is in this example. You would never do it again. Drinking,
No.
we take on that responsibility and we're like, yeah, that's part of the deal. It's so worth it that I'm willing to be hungover, less productive, waste away my weekend, have my spouse pissed at me, all of this stuff, because it just comes with the territory. And for you, it's like beating somebody up and ending up in jail and being bloody. It's like, oh, but that's just, it's fine. Come on, let's just go.
That's it. That's just what you do. Yeah. It's so crazy. Yeah. And you accept that and you're just like, yeah, that's fine. I can deal with that. You know, like people repeatedly go out. Like I remember going out and being like blackout drunk for like an entire month, like every weekend, blackout.
Mm-hmm.
The whole month of like March, I think it was. I can't really remember because I was blacked out most of it.
Right.
But like every Friday, Saturday, I was blacked out, drunk every single Friday, Saturday for a month straight. I didn't know how I got home, how I got anywhere. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing at all. I was on autopilot. The scariest part is like, I did that, woke up the next day, like, that was rough. I feel like crap. And then did it the next weekend.
That's right.
For 4 consecutive weekends. That's like that's like insanity. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, but we buy into all of that. So we buy into the fact that it's normal to throw up and still to come back to it, 24 hours later, a week later, whatever it is. We just take on all these risks. But if it were anything else, that's why we don't do meth. Okay. That's why I've never tried meth. Or, okay, let me speak for myself. That's why I've never tried heroin. The messaging about heroin scared me. And it was like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. It's addictive. They didn't tell us the same thing about alcohol, and it's just as addictive, if not more so. I can't remember which one.
I think it's more worse. I think it's worse. Yeah, it's worse because it's one of the highest. So I think it's 1 and 2. They're 1 and 2, like of the top, the most addictive. If people come with problems, it's either alcohol or heroin. Mm-hmm. I think those are like the top 2. Yeah. I was looking at like number wise. Like if you look at like the number of like alcohol related deaths, alcohol related, like DUIs and things like that. The numbers are astronomical. Like they're very high. But like if you're in a conversation and somebody comes up and is like, I'm a fucking cokehead, you're like, whoa, oh shit, watch out, buddy. Stay away from that guy. Or somebody's coming in and they're like needle marks all over them. They're like, oh man, junkie. Yeah. But somebody says like, I get fucked up every weekend. You're like, oh yeah, one of the boys. Let's go. Yeah. It's treated completely different.
The messaging
alcoholism is completely different. Because it's acceptable, because everybody does it. It's
because other people do it.
Problem with it.
Because it ruins our economy, right? Yeah. Because it keeps people stupid. They're just going to work so they can pay for their alcohol and repeat the cycle. And it keeps people in our, like, for America, I think even, looking at big pharma, it keeps people sick. When we look at people who are addicted to drugs, addicted to their phones, addicted to food, we're looking at all of these issues. We're looking at people needing more healthcare, people just not reaching their full potential, which makes them just, put their head down and stay at work. There's just a lot of that. Like the messaging around alcohol is just completely it's backwards. It's just backwards. So like when I say that I never tried heroin because I was scared of it, I should have had the same messaging about alcohol, but I didn't get it. And if I'd had that messaging, I probably wouldn't have gone where I went, right? Like if you were scared shitless of it by the time you were 7 and it was talked about in DARE and it was talked about in, all these different assembly halls and all that, instead of the drink responsibly, putting it back on the person who's drinking the addictive substance that's going to have you, fighting people in bars and wrecking your car. Instead of drinking responsibly, we really should have been given the message that like, whoa, stay away. But
what's responsibly? I mean, that's so ambiguous. Like, well, responsibly for me, but what does that mean? Like, and to think about it too, think about person's personalities and like, like we both said, we talked earlier, and it wasn't the physical addiction to alcohol. I wasn't physically addicted to alcohol. I could go days without drinking, but when I did, I went to the upper echelon of fucking drunk. Like there's like, some people go out and they can have 3 beers and be an absolute great time for them. I started. That's it. There's no stop. And like you said, the same thing. Like once you start going, that's it.
Yeah.
The bottle's gone. I can't just have one. You can't have one glass of wine. And that's how I am. And if you don't know that about yourself, if you're given a substance like alcohol, which is completely, everybody does it, everybody's drinking it, and then you get that, and then you get that feeling to the moon. And then you're fucked.
And you can ask yourself that question. Yeah. The question would be, do you drink faster than the people around you at dinner? Are you often hurrying other people along so that they'll finish their drinks so that you can go get another one? Are you often buying around so that you feel like you can go up to the bar and get them even though they're not finished with their drinks? Like, there's all that for you.
Do you know what? It's crazy that you said that, because now when I look back on all my drinking experience and stuff like that, like that's the exact stuff I was doing. People were drinking a beer and I would look at other people drinking and I'd be like, what the fuck are they doing?
Like,
why are they drinking so slow? Yeah, I was like, why do you still have that? And I would be like, I wasn't like, do you need a twirly straw? Like, is this a child's drink? Like, why are you not necking that? Like, you should just be done with that.
Right.
And then like, listen, there's actual pictures of me where they have these drinks. They were called, it's called a trash can. And it was like vodka, tequila, triple sec. There's like a bunch of stuff. And then they take a blue Caraco to make it blue, and then you dump a Red Bull in it upside down.
Oh, Lord.
And then the Red Bull just refills it. And there's a picture. I used to get them. They were like $8 for one of these. And I would go through about 5 of them and be absolutely obnoxiously drunk. And there's this girl, and she had one. And I went over and grabbed the straw, and just because I didn't have any more money. So I just started like trying to drink out of hers. And there's a picture of me trying to drink it, but she has bent the straw. I have no idea. I have no idea that she's bent the straw.
Oh, goodness.
And I was still trying to suck the alcohol out of it.
You didn't even know her. She's like, get out of here, please.
It's like, why is this guy trying to drink my drink? What is he doing?
But you could have had some of it on like her third one, but not on the first one. You can't have any of that. She's still sober, so she's like, nah.
I would do that regularly. That was like my regular. But yeah, I like the whole like pacing yourself and like watching other people and being like, I don't understand why they're not drinking as fast as me. And I couldn't see that then. I just thought like that was normal because some people around me were drinking like that, but others weren't. And I couldn't understand when the others weren't. I was like, that's strange.
Also, like, you ever gone to eat somewhere and somebody leaves like half a beer and they're putting their coat on to leave and they put their money down and you're like, what are you doing? Are you going to eat that? What?
Yeah.
And if I know you well enough, James, and that's you, and that's the person that you are drinking your little beer and you're only going to drink half and you're leaving, I'm going to pick it up and be like, we don't waste around here. I'm going to chug it. That's who I was.
Yeah. I was that Yeah. 100%. I've been there. I've done that. I mean, my buddy used to get these mixed pack of different flavored beers, and the ones he didn't like, he would just put in the fridge to the side, and he'd be like, I'm not touching those. I don't want them. And before we go out, sometimes if I didn't have a lot of cash, I would just take all of them and mix them together in a beer bong, and I would just drink like 6 of them, mixed flavors. They were all different. It was nasty, but because I drank it so fast, I'd be hammered by the time we got there.
Right, which was the true goal. And there's your
goal achieved.
Yeah. So, and there's your difference right there. Like, are you the person who's drinking because you just like the taste of that margarita once a year on so-and-so's birthday? Or are you that person who's drinking to get drunk? Because I'm never here to sip on something and be like, oh, this is so good. This is gone in 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I need another one.
And I'm going to go refill it. And the second one, I can relax a little bit. I'm still going to drink it fast. It's going to be gone within 20 minutes. But so, yeah, it was never going to be a case where I was going to just do things in that normal way. I looked at those people that would leave that half beer on the table as like unicorns. Like, those are the people that do this and they don't get in trouble. How come they get to be that person and I can't achieve that? Because that's moderation at its finest. It's like they just didn't care. They left it.
They just leave it. They take it or leave it. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you mentally wrap your head around that?
I was so jealous.
Do you feel like you have a better grip on that now in your life? Like that you can, like find a bit of a balance, a better center than when you first got sober? Like, do you feel like now
Yeah.
you're
Well, so as far as my sobriety goes, the day that I just said I'm done, and I actually said it out loud, we were at Buffalo Wild Wings and we were ordering our food, and my husband looked at me like I had 14 eyeballs on my head because I asked for a strawberry lemonade instead of wine. Because of course I was going to drink during the day too. If we were at a place where I could drink, I was going to have 2-3 glasses of wine, depending on how fast the service was. And then I was going to continue when I got home. Right. So he was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm done. I'm just done. And from that day forward, I really just have not wanted it. I think the first like 5 days were a little rough because I had become a daily drinker. So I was withdrawing for a few days, but it was nothing serious. It was just kind of grumpy and bitchy and moody, and it is what it is. Right. But from that time on, it was like, I just don't want it. And that's why I felt compelled to become a coach, because I was like, oh my God, this exists. Like, this is now my life. I was so fearful that not having alcohol would mean my life would just not be worth living. Honestly, I thought I needed it. I thought I wanted it. I thought it made my life better. Life was going to be so boring without it. So to walk away from it and feel like I don't want you, and like you even telling me about that bar drink with the Red Bull upside down, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a little nauseous. That's the life that I wanted. So, but that's a goal for my clients as well. I work with 2 other coaches, Chris Shattuck and Matt Gardner, and the 3 of us have a program called Freedom from Alcohol. And our goal is to get you to a space where you can walk away from it and still, because we can't live in a bubble, alcohol is everywhere, which makes it a little bit more difficult than some drugs that aren't just easily accessible.
It's tough.
Yeah, but like I can pour wine for somebody else. I sometimes have wine.
Same.
Yeah. And I'm not like, oh my God, I just got to stay away from it. Let me smell it. No. I just don't want it. And I can be at an open bar, and I don't feel like the whole experience is ruined because I'm not partaking in the open bar, which old school Laura and old school James was like, the only reason we showed up was because you told us open bar, and we were going to go stand by the bar. And
and I'm going to own that fucking bar. I might even get thrown out of it later.
Exactly.
I might even ruin everybody's night.
Right. Open bar, I'm there. So, but I can still go to all these places, have open bars, have all these cool experiences, and the experiences are still really awesome. We made all of those things about the alcohol, but they never were about the alcohol. If you're going to a concert, you wouldn't believe, if you actually choose not to drink during that concert, how much more you enjoy it, because you're not, going to the bathroom every 20 minutes once you break the seal, and fighting for bathroom space and watching half the concert from the bathrooms or listening to it and dealing with all the lines and all of that. Just everything can still be really enjoyable without it. And I didn't know that. I really thought the opposite was going to be true.
People find that weird about me. Like,
do they?
They're like, how do you enjoy yourself so much? Like, if you go out in a social setting, I'm quite social with people. So people are like, like without it though, like, how do you, I'm just like, well, it's just me. I just want to have fun. Like, if I want to dance to music, I dance to music. If I want to do this, I'll do this. Like, I don't need that to make me, more confident or more outgoing, or, do you know what I mean? Because my drinking was never about being more confident or more outgoing or more fun or dancey or whatever, funny. It was about getting fucking wrecked.
Right.
And now that I don't want to get wrecked, I can really go out and enjoy myself, because I can have a laugh and I can have a joke and dance and do funny stuff and still do all the things that everybody else is doing. But I won't wake up on Saturday morning feeling like a bag of shit. Right. I drank too much, or I won't be covered in vomit, or I won't have a hangover. My head won't be pounding. I'll still be able to do everything that I want to do. It's just people find that a little bit perplexing,
Yeah. So it does bring up a good point, because why is it perplexing to people? Because they have used alcohol for so long to be able to do those things, like, oh, I can loosen up and then I can get out on the dance floor. Well, if you've been dancing in that manner since you were like 19 or 20, going to the clubs a little bit earlier than you were supposed to be there, but whatever. But you've been like, oh, I don't know how to do this. You take your couple shots and then you believe that that's how you're able to get out there and dance. So you've just got this belief that this is how it's done, and you don't know how to do it without it. But you were doing all these things as you grew up without it. It's just you started relying on alcohol or some other substance that you're using. But if you just go without it, you find very quickly that you do fall into like kind of who you are and what your personality is. So I would be out there dancing with you, completely sober. I can't dance worth anything. I'm probably going to stay for like 10 minutes. I'm going to get tired. But I'll go out there. I'm having fun. I'll do karaoke, all that fun stuff. We have just forgotten that all these things were available to us before we became
Yeah.
drinkers. Then we just started using alcohol for every reason, to socialize, to get brave. I've got to do a speech. Oh, to celebrate. Oh, I lost my job. Now I have to, drink because I'm miserable or a bill came in. We just started using it for everything. And
Oh
so,
yeah, it becomes your main coping skill. It
yeah,
becomes the only thing that you know how to do
yeah.
to cope with everything, to deal with life. That's why, like, when I got sober, I always thought, like, now I got to deal with all this shit
Yeah.
without alcohol, and what does that look like, and how
Oh,
do I do that? What is the plan for that? Because I haven't done that.
mhm.
I spent 11 years drinking my life away. Now I've suddenly taken a moment and been like, fuck it, I'm changing my life right now. This is it. Boom. And then
Right.
wake up the next day and go, what does that look like? What's that all about?
Yeah. It's pretty common because for me and for you and for like the clients that I coach, there's a lot of time on your hands all of a sudden. Because
Yeah.
like for me, I was a daily drinker mostly, and I would come home from work every day, leaving the office by 5, getting home at like 5:40 and opening up that bottle of wine. I'm drinking the entire night. So no matter what else is going on in my house, drinking was number one, and everything else I can just do while I'm drinking. So raising kids, playing with kids, doing laundry, having dinner, cooking dinner, anything I need to do, I can do it with a glass of wine in my hand. So that was how I would spend my night. Um,
Mm.
and so even for me, I still had those young kids when I quit drinking. I still kind of felt bored. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with my time? Because you have so much of it. So that's the next thing that a lot of people get into is I have to coach people on, hey, here's the pitfalls of the other addictions you could start getting into. So let's be a little careful. And that's what you were asking
Yeah.
about earlier is, do I find the center a little easier now? For alcohol, I'm good. Like I'm just good. I just don't want it. It's a past thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I do struggle. What we were speaking about earlier is that I find myself like, really? Another thing that is a potential for me to go down this long road on because I'm a dopamine seeker. Um, I recently had a game on my phone and we were talking about how it's giving me fake money, and I was suddenly getting these dopamine hits, and I'm suddenly playing this game way more often than I would ever play a game on my phone. I've got other stuff that I
Mm-hmm.
like to do on there too, right? So this game was like taking over. Um, and I realized all of a sudden, like I was getting dopamine from it. I was liking that too much. It's starting to interfere with my life, as ridiculous as that sounds. So I had to take that off. And when I first stopped drinking, I did go through a little shopping spree, couple months, where I was putting all that dopamine into Amazon, and then watching it come from my
Package
mailbox.
arrives. And
Yeah.
the package arrives. Oh, the package is here. The package is here. Yeah.
Yes.
Such a
So those
rush, isn't it?
Yeah, so those are the kind of things that I kind of dealt with, that I've learned about myself since quitting drinking, is you do get to know yourself a lot better, and you start to become very aware of what your actions are and what's driving those actions, and like, why am I compelled to go back to that game, and what's going on with me scrolling for 3 hours on TikTok, and what's the deal here. So I know we were talking about that beforehand, and
Yeah.
you had said some of the similar things as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I noticed a lot of stuff about myself. Like, so I came out and I was like, because I kind of got into like mixed martial arts like right at the end of my drinking. Because I was like, I got in a lot of bar fights. I got in a lot of scuffles over the years. That I was like, really tough people do this. This is what tough people do. I was just some drunk asshole at a bar that was punching people for no fucking reason because I was too drunk and I couldn't handle a
Mhm.
drink and I was an idiot, right? So I went and started doing that because I thought like it would teach me like a little bit of like discipline and like a little bit of a structure because my life was
Right.
all over the place. So it was good because I learned a lot from it and I got into it, but I got into it like for 3 years straight. I just worked out, I ran, I did jujitsu, I competed in tournaments. I mean, it's crazy because I won all these like tournaments and like did all this
Oh,
stuff,
wow.
but like I hurt my shoulder. My shoulder was fucked up for a while because I just pushed it to like the extreme end of everything. You know, I'd get anxiety if I didn't run 2 miles in a day. I'd get really in my own head and be like, you could have just, you're running 8-minute miles. You could have run that in 16 minutes, 16, 17 minutes of your day. You grab a shower, you're done. You can do whatever you want for the rest of the day. Like, I beat myself up over it.
Mhm.
And, it's a little bit of like getting in your own head and being like, eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is going on. I've gone too far. And then other things in my life started happening. Like I met a girl, I got a better job, I was working a lot more. So I had to figure out how to do all those things like simultaneously, like all at the same time. Like I had to figure out actually how life works. And I was like, okay, well, I can't constantly go to the gym now. I have a job. I can't always do this. So I need to figure out, but it then came down to like, well, I'll just have to stop doing that and then work. And then it became like a focus on work. So it was, it took years. It took years and years before I kind of like got it in my head that I can just like, if I run 2 miles today, that's good for you. You ran 2 miles. That's awesome. Fucking great. But like, you don't have to run 2 miles tomorrow. You don't have to run 2 miles the next day. You can kind of like, I kind of got a better place, but I mean, obviously it just kind of trickles down into everything. Kind of trickles down into my eating habits. I'll overeat because it's satisfaction. It's gratification. It's a reward.
Check marks. And oh gosh, yes.
All these things that are like, ooh, you did it. Well, you finished a whole plate. Yay. Have another one. Like, yay.
Yeah. So you talking about exercise and just getting really into it and like beating yourself up for certain things. I didn't do this right after I got sober, but maybe a year and a half after I'd gotten sober, somebody said, let's do 75 hard. And I was like, no, that sounds terrible. Have you heard of 75 hard?
No.
Okay. So it's a mental toughness program. It's run by Andy Frisella, and he's got a podcast called what is it called? Real AF, and he's just giving it to you straight. But one of the things he did a couple of years ago was he created a program called 75 Hard and Live Hard. So 75 Hard, I'm being told about this in a group of friends, and I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not doing this. You have to work out twice a day to whatever ability you have. So if you're able to do like Olympic level sports, you can't just do like a slow slug walk, right? Like, so you got to work out twice a day for 45 minutes to whatever your ability is, whatever that means for you. So for me, that was like walking, yoga, jogging, things like that, HIIT workouts, whatever. And so you have to do like these 5 tasks every day. So the 2 workouts, one of them has to be outside, regardless of weather conditions. So if it's cold, hot, raining, snowing, you still have to do one of your workouts outside every day. And then you have to drink a gallon of water a day, which is quite a feat. And you have to read 10 pages of self-development, take a picture of yourself every day for progress. And I believe that's it. So those are the 5 tasks. So I was like, absolutely not. I'm never doing that. And then something clicked in my brain where I was like, well, what if I could? I could do that. And then that shit became my entire life for 75 days. And I completed it, but it took over everything. So it's just like Lauren and James don't have that like 50 or 60% or 70%. It's like, it didn't matter. I was planning my entire day around those 2 workouts, which is the hardest thing to get in, is to do them. You're supposed to do them like 3 hours apart too. So you're not just like running through an hour and a half and being like lazy about it. So anyway, it took over, and I've tried to do it again. And I stopped myself because I realized I was being a little bit obsessive rather than it being good for me. I turned it into being bad for me.
Yeah. Does that make sense? It's not enjoyable. You're not enjoying yourself. You're doing it like just to do it, Right. That's how I was with running and stuff like that. Like I felt compelled. Like it was like a compulsion. Like, and that's what got me thinking like, okay, that's too much. Like it should just be enjoyable. You should just be doing it because you enjoy it. I do it now more like for like my mental health. Like I love to go out but I can go like a week without it and then, go for a run and then I feel great afterwards. And I think it's like good for my mental health, but I don't have to like constantly be like, all right, how am I going to get a run in tomorrow? What do I have planned? What's going on? Where, how am I going to do this? It was like the same behavior for like drinking and stuff like that. It was like, how am I going to, all right, so I'm going to go out Sunday. I'm going to do this. Get the figure, plan it all out.
Yeah. So you're either going to be that person that has it all planned out or you're just not going to do it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm not doing
like,
that.
It's so funny to me when somebody will say like, oh, I still got to get my run in today or whatever they're doing for their workouts. And I'm like, dude, you just moved for 5 hours. You were just helping a friend move furniture for 5 hours. Don't you think you got your workout done today? And that's kind of who I'm trying to become myself, is not so rigid on a rule just because it's a rule, just because I've made it there and it needs a little check mark. It's like, no, if I actually did like 5 hours of hiking, I don't need to also go do 1 hour of yoga to get my fitness in today, just because I
No,
had
yeah,
said
this is
to do
done.
yoga for 30 days straight. Like there's no reason to add that back in after you've hiked for 5 hours. So that's how I'm trying to soften with myself, but it's constantly a work in progress.
Yeah, it isn't it. It's just like one of those things where you constantly like you figuring yourself out as you go along, as you get further into like people will think like, because I'm 12 years sober, and everybody
Nice.
thinks like, oh, it must be so easy. I feel like it's gotten harder. The longer I've gone, the harder it's gotten because the further I've gotten in life, right? So when I
Yeah.
started, there was like there's a list of things that I didn't have. I didn't have a good job. Um, I didn't have a wife. I didn't have 2 kids. I didn't have a mortgage. You know, there's like I didn't live in the United Kingdom. I lived in the U.S. All these things that I didn't have, right, in my life, right, and then now I have all these things in my life that I have to adjust for, and I have to like obviously
Yeah.
I have shitty coping skills because I drank all the time, right? So now I have to learn how to do all that with like I have to learn how to cope. I have to learn how to deal with that. I have to learn how to process my emotions, feel my emotions, because I didn't do that for 11 years. So, even 12 years sober, I find it hard to like, I still have work to do. Like I'm still doing work.
Tons.
It's not easy. It's difficult. Um, so you have to kind of like, work really hard. And like, that's why part of this, journey has been doing this podcast because I needed something for me. you
Yes.
know
That's
I did a
amazing.
lot of stuff in the States, with a group that did recovery work, um, and then when I moved over here, like that was all gone, and like I didn't have anything for a couple of years, and I just started to find it difficult, like, and I had been toying around with the idea of the podcast for 4 years. I was just in my own head and scared not to fail, or to
Yeah.
like not have anybody listen, or just to be like some stupid little thing or whatever. So you just get all the negative thoughts, and then finally I
Mhm.
started doing it, and it's like I feel like it's really good because people are telling me it helps people, and that's what it's all been about, is to
Yeah.
help people, and also it's a bit self-serving. It makes me feel good about me, what I'm
Yeah, of
doing, but
course.
it's all part of it though, isn't it? you
But
know
it's purpose filled as well. But yeah, so and I had told you this right before the show started, but um I just sent your podcast that I was listening to 3 clients, like, hey, listen to this. This might be, something for you just for more perspective. And
yeah, that's
so I think
amazing, like.
there's so much of a need for voices out there that are doing it a little bit differently, and have been successful, because it's we're over here talking about how hard it is and how it's gotten harder over the years, but it's also gotten easier in a lot of ways too.
Yeah,
Because you have
absolutely.
grown, you have become more of who you were meant to be, you have learned to be self-aware, you're working through all your BS. So yeah, some of that growth is really hard. And like for me, when I quit drinking initially, I'm looking around and I'm like, "Ugh, okay." Still had it kind of together on the outside, had my job going,
Mhm.
nobody had divorced me yet or taken my kids from me, but there were all these
That's
things.
good.
Yeah, so I was drinking to numb out and to not deal with the problems that I was having in my relationship, or to not deal with like the parenting issues that are in every house, the
Mhm.
stress of having young
Yeah,
children. So
yeah.
something I heard a long time ago, and I'm terrible with quotes, but really wherever we became a problem drinker, like wherever you took it from like that just regular stuff to like whoa, is where we emotionally stop growing. So
Mm,
you stunt your growth, and then you have to make up for that. So yeah, that can be a little difficult if you had, that
I'd
many
agree with
years
that.
lost to it. But then you have more bandwidth to deal with it because you're not drunk and you're not hungover and you're not sick.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
makes it a little easier. Think about dealing with all of this and drinking and being hungover every day. Can you
Oh yeah, I
imagine?
would not. I would not
Oh,
be in good shape.
no.
I know in my heart, like none of this would all be gone. This wouldn't be real. This would all disappear really fast. Because I know the extreme level that I can get to,
Mhm.
and it's not healthy. So
Yeah.
I know that it would all disappear real quick. But yeah, no, there is a lot more positives in my life now. I mean, my whole life is transformed and changed. Um, you know, so even for how hard it is, to do all the stuff that I do, or like deal with the life that I have. I wouldn't have it without it. Like it all kind of is
Oh,
together, you know.
yeah.
And it's worth it. It's worth every second of it. I have two beautiful children, you know, that I never thought I'd have. Two little boys that I love tremendously. You know, and I can see so much of myself in them. And it's probably one of the greatest gifts to have, is that I got to that point because I never thought I'd have it. And now I get to look at it every day and see a little bit of me in those little guys. And yeah, it feels good. It also stresses me out because I know that they're going to be like me, and that's dangerous. I'm like, oh no.
Well, there's that. Yeah. And I come from a line of people who tend to be addicted to things. So I feel the same way about my two little boys. Mine are 10 and 7. How old are yours?
I have a soon to be 6-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Whew, yeah.
Little one.
Yeah. So, but for me, I think back to the way my drinking was going, and even listening to how you drink versus what I drink, I sound like an absolute lightweight, but wine, one bottle had me out. But I had also started to do some things to, you know, increase the buzz a little bit and to get to a bigger level quicker. So I had dabbled in taking a Xanax with drinking, which is an absolute shit show.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
So dangerous.
So
and
dangerous.
I also, when I didn't do, I did that a couple of times. It was never a good outcome though. So I did learn.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. And then I would hide drinks too. So I would have like little airport bottles in my room, in my dresser, where I could just like go in the room, open up a bottle of wine that was like those cartons with the screw tops. And, you know, nobody's looking in my underwear drawer except for me. So I could do all of those things. Yeah. And I forgot where I was going with that. What was I talking about? I lost myself.
Yeah, I don't know. You lost me. So,
Shit.
all right. Anyway, let's go. Segue. Here we go.
Yeah,
You're talking about hiding it in your underwear drawer.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm so sorry.
Did your husband suspect that there was stuff being hidden anywhere? Like, did it cause issue?
No, he didn't.
He didn't think anything of it.
He didn't know.
You were good.
Well, I think I was just such a lightweight that I was just already hammered, and I just hammered all the time. Like after my first drink, I had a pretty good buzz, and then after like 2 or 3, like I did not hold it well. And I don't know if that's because like my body was like rejecting the poison at some point, because I know that I was not always that light. But I wanted to say 2 things about that. One, that, you know, if my drinking sounds lightweight, don't use that as a comparison. We're not doing the comparison game, because you can be doing what James was doing or what I was doing. And if it was causing the types of problems that it was causing, like it's still got to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but also what I was going to relay that back to is you were saying that you have more things actually to be stressed about now. I don't think I would be here. I really don't. I don't think I would have lived another 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. Where I was going was just going to be really dark. I was just doing more and more. And like when I say I was doing the most, like I was just like within reason and also trying to be sneaky at the same time. You know, I wasn't you know, hiding a keg in my bedroom, but to the extent that I could, I was just doing more and more, and bad things were going to happen. My husband was really tolerant of it, but it was wearing thin. And then what happens if, you know, think of the situation, you were drinking like you were, and you already had kids, and now your wife leaves you with the kids. What are you going to do? You're going to drink yourself to sleep. And so I know for me, like none of this would be possible without that journey, but also without stopping. I really don't think I would be here. I was always trying to just increase it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
and I can't prove the future, but.
Well, I mean, you know, it's such a dangerous game to play, isn't it? Like just, you know, especially like in your situation, like you had young kids and stuff like that. So were they young enough that at the time that they'll never remember any of it, will they? They
don't actually. So they were 3 and 5 or 3 and 4.5, something like that. And they don't remember it. They hear the messaging now. They hear me talk about it and they understand it. But they don't remember it. And I will say that I don't think they knew anything different. So I don't think they knew that mommy was drunk because that's the mommy they knew. But I will say
That's
that
true.
one of them did bring home like a drawing of me one time with a wine bottle, and I was like, "Oh, great, that's
Ooh,
perfect." Yes. Like, what does mommy like? Mommy likes wine. Here it is. I don't remember what the context was, but it was something where I had a bottle of wine with me, and I'm like, "Oh,
right.
that's perfect. That's perfect." Um, but no, they don't remember it, and I am truly blessed for that. And what's interesting is I always thought that I was really really responsible with my drinking as far as as far as the kids were concerned. And it's actually not true now that I'm able to like be really open with myself and be
Yeah.
truthful because I'm no longer doing these things that I was doing. I was not perfect. I wouldn't drink if I was home with them by myself, but if I knew my husband was going to be home in 30 minutes, I would go ahead and crack it open, knowing that I wasn't going to be hammered before he got home, and that if anything happened, I would still be able to drive because I was taking it really slow. So yeah, the
Mm,
stupidest stuff. So and I was only one bottle or one drink or one situation away from actually doing really harmful things. Like, what if I did
mm,
decide to drink at home by myself? What if I did get drunk? What if somebody did fall off the couch and go unconscious, which actually happened one day while I was not drinking? So what if any of we try to like pride ourselves on like, I say this a lot, I never had a DUI. So you deserved one. We all know you've driven drunk before. Almost everybody who's a problem drinker has gotten in the car when they should not have before. It doesn't make you
God.
special that you didn't get caught, right? So
No,
like
yeah.
none of us are better than the other, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I know I just went off on another long tangent. Sorry, it's what you
No,
get
no,
here.
no, no. Hey, no, it's fine. It's fine. No, the DUI thing, what you're saying there is kind of like, yeah, like guys who are like, oh yeah, I've never had a DUI, but you drive drunk. It
Right,
doesn't matter if you never got one. We don't pat yourself on the back for it. What happens if you drive next time you drive drunk, you flip the car and kill a bunch of people? What then?
right,
Like
right.
I look back now and I think how terrible I was for that. I did that so much. And now I think, God, it's terrifying. Because I could have really hurt. And I'm talking like, some people are like, well, I had like 5 and I went out and dropped. No, I had like 15, like 4 shots. I'm like, I shouldn't have been operating fucking anything
Right,
at
right.
all. And I was driving a 2-ton vehicle at like 60 miles an hour for like 40 minutes. Like I was driving like long distance. I remember a couple times, like I drove quite a far away and I thought, this is a bad idea. But the alcohol,
I got this. You'll
confidence,
be
it
fine.
had my confidence high and my inhibitions low. And I was like,
Right.
let's go. We're going the fuck home. And everybody
Yep.
got, and the crazy thing is the car was filled with like 6 people. Like if I'd have wrecked, I would have probably killed 6 people. Like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do not drink and drive. Like,
Do
don't be
not.
proud of yourself
Do
because you
not.
don't
No.
get caught
No,
because
just be sorry that you did it in the first place and move on and don't do it anymore, please. And I think there's a difference too, and I don't know if this would be the same for you, but once I had kids, a lot of my drinking patterns did change for the better as far as
mm,
society is concerned. Like I wasn't drinking and driving because I was now like I live in a small town. I'm the nurse practitioner. I'm not doing anything to where I was doing this all privately. But earlier I said, and I wasn't drinking when I was nursing my babies or pregnant. And that was the same. I caught myself, and I want to actually say it while we're still on the podcast, that doesn't make me fucking special either. It doesn't make me
no, yeah.
special if I could turn it off. And I just noticed a little ego coming up there. And it's like, well, at least I didn't do that. Girl, shut up. You did it all. Be quiet. So there's other people that didn't do what I did, but maybe they did something. We don't even need to judge it. It's like, let's just stop doing that ridiculousness and come to the other side and learn to cope with our shit without alcohol, so that we
Mm.
don't have to think about, am I going to get in the car drunk again? But did it change for you when you had kids, where you were like, it mattered more to you to be off the road, or were you still doing it, or you didn't? You were already sober
Oh,
when you
well, I was sober when I had kids,
had
so
kids.
it didn't. But I mean, it did get. Yeah, I drove drunk up until like the bitter end until like
Okay,
I
okay,
really started. I mean, I could tell you sometimes when I was like, there's no reason I should be in this fucking car. But I'm
right.
so hell bent on going home, going to my own house. Like
Hmm.
I don't know, and I wouldn't let people drive me, and because I was so confrontational with people,
Yeah.
If somebody be like, just let me give you a ride home, I'd be like, get the fuck out of my face. You know, I get really aggressive about it.
Right.
So I was really dangerous. I lived quite dangerously. And I think it was because I just was sometimes at a point where I didn't care. I didn't care about myself, and I didn't care about anybody else.
Right.
So when you're at that, like when that's your mindset, it's really hard to stop yourself from doing something really stupid, because you don't, like, in your mind you believe you don't mean shit.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I didn't mean shit to anybody, and it didn't matter if I died, it didn't matter if I wrecked. But I never took into consideration, like, what if I hit somebody else, what if I kill somebody else, like those things, because I'm to the point where I'm so drunk that my mind's not going to process that. It's not going to deal with that.
And FYI, when you're drinking like that, you're either drunk or super depressed, because it is a depressant. And every time you drink, the research shows that it depresses your mood for 3 to 4 days. So now if you're cyclically drinking every day, every 24 hours, you are never rising above that depression. And then you're also dealing with the shame and guilt of being the shithead that you are, because you keep doing these things and you keep promising yourself you're not going to do them, and then you do them anyway. So now you hate yourself because you can't trust yourself. All of these things going on for you. You can see why you would be at the bottom and say, I just don't care anymore. But I guess my question would be, now that you have kids, do you see it differently? Because when I even think about drinking and driving or other people doing it, I'm like, oh my God, we're on the road. My kids are on the road. Right?
Oh yeah, I think it's a horrible thing. Oh, yeah, for me, that's a terrible thing. Like, I don't think anybody should get in the car if they've had a drink. Any kind of drink.
No, of course.
Because I just think it's quite irresponsible, and it's like, you don't know. You don't know what can happen.
The bravado of youth, that feeling indestructible, nothing bad can happen.
Yeah, invincible, that invincibility where people do die, but I won't die. I won't have that happen. I think that's a lot of it as well. When you're younger, even when you get a bit old, even in your late 20s and stuff like that, you still think like, well, it won't be me. I won't be. But I mean, it easily can. Honestly, it easily can. I mean, you just never know.
Yeah. If you're drinking in the ways that you and I were doing, you're like one drink or one decision, one situation, one false move, one oopsie because your inhibitions were down, or your depth perception was off, and like life can pretty much be over as you know it.
I mean, I was playing, like, I was literally just like Russian roulette every weekend. Like, spin the barrel. Let's go. Let's see what happens. It was a crapshoot. I mean, anything could happen. Anything could happen. Because I'd get to a point where, like I said, like, I'd go blackout, and then once you're on autopilot, I mean, my mind is gone, but my body's still doing shit. Like, I was doing stuff. Like, I was, and depending on what was happening, I was either going to be aggressive, or I was going to be just out of control, where even my friends couldn't keep me in check. And then I have to do a lot of apologizing the next day because I did this
or asking, like, hey, did I do anything wrong yesterday? Are you mad at me?
Well, yeah, just piece your night together with a text message. Like, yo, I'm at home. I'm not really sure what happened. And they'd be like, oh yeah, you drove, you left. Okay. Then I gotta go out, and all right, where's my car? Okay, there's my car. Okay, that's parked the wrong way. Okay. So I know what happened there. And then I have to like walk around my house and like find my clothes. Where are my clothes? I don't know where my clothes are. I took all my clothes off. One time I came home, I took all the cushions off the sofa, and then I slept on the sofa.
That sounds comfortable.
Took all my clothes off. I woke up the next day, and I woke up at like 6 a.m. to like go to the toilet, and I was like, oh. And I was like, half of me was on the sofa, half of me was on the floor. I was like, what in the fuck? I didn't know how it happened. I don't know why I did it, but all the sofa cushions were on the floor. I couldn't even figure out why I did it, but I did.
It made sense at the time, I guarantee it.
It seemed like it needed to happen. Yeah, I came in and that was it. I took all my clothes off and then started taking sofa cushions off, and I was like, this is fucking happening.
Yeah.
And then apparently I sent like text messages that were just like gibberish to people that were like, it's just like, back when you had to like hit the button. Kids
3
nowadays,
times.
kids you won't understand this, but back in the day, you had to actually hit the one button 3 times to get to see.
That's right.
So I did that. I was sending messages to people, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
just like it looked like Scandinavian. It was all over the place. It was just like random gibberish, and in my mind, I thought I wrote the awesomest. It was
Right.
a great text. I woke up the next day and I was like, why didn't anybody reply to me? And I opened my phone and looked at it and I was like, what the was
The
that?
coordination to do the 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, the 1, 2. Yeah, that would be terrible. But also at a certain point in the night, I could barely see my phone. Like, even though it's an iPhone now these days, I would be kind of like looking and like, I can't really see that. So I guess I'm gonna have to text them tomorrow. So we've made it a long way from like, hey, this was supposed to be fun, right? It's not fun.
It's not fun.
Alcohol is so insidious that we just went from this like place of like, this is what everybody does, so we do it too. I live in this small town and that's what the minors do, and like by the end of it, not having fun. Why are the couch cushions off the couch? Why am I bloody again, with your face? And talking about those things. Why is my husband mad at me in my case? What did I send out last night? Who did I talk to? Let me go look through, because I love nothing more than to get drunk and go call like my mom or my sister and just have like a call. What was I telling them? Just all the things. So I think I was a little bit of a tamer version than you, but I think I was a lot older as well at the time. So like I wasn't like getting out in the bars and being really aggressive and all those things, but I was just tearing stuff up at home, just messing all of it up. So, but in the end, the messaging out there is, it's fun, it's fine, it's innocent, it's, it makes a party go off with a bang, blah, blah, blah. This is what happens. And to your point, it's Russian roulette. We don't know who. Knowing myself now, I could have predicted that I would be a problematic alcoholic, but I didn't know that, right? I didn't know I was going to have an issue with it. But we don't know exactly who's going to have the problem. There's a bunch of people in my family, and it's random who has the problem and who doesn't. Who stays away from it completely because they never even had an inkling to get near the stuff, versus who's still struggling, versus who is clean or sober or whatever you like to call yourself. So if we, and I feel like it's also a very time and the amount. So like if we continue to expose ourselves to it over and over, and it just starts to slowly creep into our life, I think that's when it starts to make that turn, because it just shows up everywhere all of a sudden, and then you're suddenly just doing it all the time, and you don't think it's a problem until it's like too late. Like I don't think anybody's ever said, oh shit, I think I'm addicted to alcohol, when they totally weren't, when they were like in the stage where they could take it or leave it, right? So it's just the way it's told out there versus the truth of it. As we sit here and recount our stories and all the stuff that's gone wrong, it's not being told correctly. It should be the same thing, like, kids, stay away from heroin. It's horrible. You'll be addicted. You'll be in jail. Yeah, just don't drink. And
just
let's
don't
take
drink.
it off the shelves. And I know people are going to hate that, but let's take it off the shelves and make it unavailable. I don't know how all that would work with bootstrapping and all that. I don't know, but it feels like it's so endorsed.
I think we're just at a point in the world where that's not an option. People are it's been around since the Egyptians. It's been here since the pyramids. Like, it's been here so long and so acceptable and so comfortable. But I just think like we need to talk about, like, for us, it's like people need to hear these stories. People need to hear this. And they also need to be, just don't go into it thinking it's all whimsical and magical and unicorns and you're just going to have a great time. It's only going to be for your college, and it's only going to, it can turn, and before you know it, you're in a bad place.
Right.
It can take you over and make you become a different person.
Yes.
Like that. And you won't see it coming. It'll happen. And you won't know it's going to, you can't tell when you start. So just be cautionary with it. Be responsible, and also, like, check your friends, look at your surroundings, to see the people you're hanging out with. Because for me, I was in a circle of people who were doing it heavily all the time in my hometown. Right? No problem. We're doing the same thing. I don't see anything different. Nobody in that group is going to go, hey man, I think you might have a problem, because they were just as fucked up as I was.
Right.
the same night. So it negates the whole thing. So you just have to watch like who you're with, and also just, kind of like take it all in and just be like, and also you can go out and enjoy yourself. You can have social gatherings. You can go to things without drinking or drinking heavily. If you want to disguise it, just carry a cup around with you. I had a girl on a couple weeks ago, and she's in college, and she goes out with like a, like something like this, like a container.
Oh yeah.
With a like the lid that you can pop open or whatever, and she just puts soda in it, and nobody asks her anything. They don't question it because she has something in her hand.
Right. Exactly. It's a big deal.
So if you, but that's huge though. I said that's so clever. Like you can go out, you just take your own little, Stanley cup, that you get your iced coffees in, just put something in it, and if somebody asks, be like, yeah, it's, I got a drink. And nobody will probably bother you because they don't. They don't know, and you can kind of like mask it if you feel, like, I don't know, socially, like
if you don't want to be like, hey, I'm sober, or hey, I don't drink, or hey, I'm a problem when I drink. Yeah.
If you want to just keep it under wraps, like that's a quick little incognito way that you could just you could have something in your hand, but you don't have to be an alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, and people think that people care. People don't care what you're drinking. I really thought people were going to care that I wasn't drinking. They do not care. Now, we'll tell you what they care about. They care about their drinking. So don't get in the way of their drinking unless unless you need to, because it's a safety issue. Everybody has to do their own thing, right? But if you're not judgy on their drinking, you're still invited to the parties. People still like you. They don't care that you're drinking something else. And they'll even be really cool and like make you mocktails and stuff if you're a mocktail person. But honestly, most people don't even notice that I'm not drinking. And if I weren't in the sobriety space for what I do for work, people wouldn't even know, because, you can carry whatever. And what are women doing with their Stanley cups? They're filling them with wine. They're filling them with vodka. So this is just whatever it is. It's water and some kind of drink mix. But if I were a drinker, there'd be something in here too, right? The Starbucks cups, the Stanley cups. So yeah, but honestly, nobody would even notice that I wasn't drinking. And sometimes I've been to events where people were like, when did you quit drinking? Because you were drinking at that place. And I'm like, no. And they're like, yeah, you are. And I'm like, I was not. And I'm like, why do you think I was? And they'll start to like think through it. And they'll realize that they're projecting things onto me about themselves, about, like, she must be drinking because she's having fun on the dance floor. She must be drinking.
Yeah, or I saw her chatting with so-and-so and they were having such a great conversation. Yeah. You definitely had a glass in your hand and you're like,
But for the most part, so even I wasn't even posing as a drinker, and yet people thought I was drinking at a particular event. But people don't really care. They want to do them. But it is great to have I like to have a cup in my hand as a prop if I'm standing in like standing only space, because like, what do you do with your hands? I never can figure it out. So if I have a cup, then I can hold it like this. I can hold it like this. So it's a good prop, and it helps people not ask you if you need a drink too.
Very true. All right. So before we close out, is there anything you have coming up that you'd like to promote, or anything else you'd like to let the listeners know about?
Yeah, so you can find me on all of the major social platforms as Lauren Rutledge Howman, and I can share those links with you as well if you would like.
I'll get all the links and post them on the bios of the video and the audio, and you guys can click away and check her out.
Yeah, and my website is howmanhealth.com. On that website, you can find a quiz that you can take if you are worried about your drinking and you just kind of want to know. It'll 7 questions, yes or no, and then it'll spit out a result for you that you can read about right there on the spot. You can also schedule a free consult with me. We don't work with everybody, so if you're not a good fit, if you're being forced to quit and you're not ready to quit, all of those things. But if you want to do a free consult and see if you're somebody that would be really aligned with what we do, and want to learn more about it, you can find that in my website as well. There's a little link there. But other than that, James, I appreciate you having me here. Like, this has been really fun.
No, it's been great. So before I close out, I like to do a question. I have 3 questions. So there's 3 things that you need in your sobriety. So like for me, like I said, like running or like the gym or things like active, I have to have those in my. What are 3 things that you need in your recovery?
Purpose, doing something filled with purpose. So that's, sober coaching is something I know, something I have experience with. So then I use it to help other people. Activity, as far as doing yoga, doing walking, something active. And number 3, community. I think that it's really helpful to have community to, in bouncing things off of you and you telling me some of the stupid stuff you did when you were drinking. It's healing to be able to say those things out loud. To
Yeah.
have people that understand you and get it without me giving you like a 45-minute dissertation about my life with drinking. We could just like have a conversation about addiction, right? Like, and I think community is really important. And coaching has healed me in ways that I wasn't healed yet, just because of having community with coaching, getting together with all of the clients and just having these, like, just being together. So good
That's
question.
awesome. Yeah, no, I like to do that. I've been doing that. I started it late in the podcast, but it was one of the things that I thought, like, if somebody comes back and listens to this, what are 3 things that they can take away? Because everybody recovers differently. So I just thought, like, what if there's 3 things that everybody gives at the end of their interview? And then people can pick and choose, like, oh, cool, I'd like to do maybe journaling, or, maybe running could be my thing. Or like, you could take those things away and it can help you, flush out your like little toolbox that you have for recovery, the things that you need, the things that you find work for you better, they don't work for you at all. You can take them. You can use these, these things that people suggest. So I just thought it'd be a great idea for people to have more options available to them than, just a 12-step or just, just the basics, or,
And hearing from the people that have been there.
Yeah. And you can just build, you can build your own. It's like, it's like a build your own recovery kit. Here we go.
Yeah. Yep. And it's all, when I'm talking to clients about different tools to use, it's like, look, they come back and they say, oh my God, I hate meditation, or I hate journaling, or I hate this. It's like, hey, look, we're just like throwing wet noodles on the wall and seeing which ones stick, which ones are going to work best for you. You don't have to use every single tool in the toolkit. There's going to be some you rarely use. There's going to be some you go to all the time. So. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was the basic whole premise of the thing. It's just to give people the options, give people what's it. That's why I'm trying to interview as many people as I can to give people different perspectives and different views. And, that just gives people more of a comprehensive look at what addiction is, what recovery is, how does it all work? How does it all work? So I appreciate you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time out to do this. Absolutely. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah. Me and my boys going crazy in 23. Like MJ, but we ain't never gonna fade away. We ain't never gonna fade away. Me and my boys going crazy in 23. Like MJ, but we ain't never gonna fade away. We ain't never gonna fade away. Me and my boys going crazy in 23. Like MJ, but we ain't never gonna fade away. We ain't never gonna fade away. Oh no, oh no. Me and my boys going crazy in 23. Like MJ, yeah. We ain't never gonna fade away. We ain't never gonna fade away. Oh no, oh no. Me and my boys going crazy in 23. Yeah, like MJ, but we ain't never gonna fade away. We ain't never gonna fade away. Oh no, me and my boys going crazy